Good morning, good evening, good afternoon to all my blessed beloveds out there in living and thriving land. You are watching Living and Thriving with Rustie, and I am Rustie. And I have to say, I'm really excited today because technically I have interviewed more than 1,000 people, and it is mind-boggling to know that there are more than 1,000 people on this planet that are just absolutely wonderful. We hear so much about the negative, and I refuse to share that. I want people to be authentically real and on here, creating good and power and sharing their stories of what motivates them, what inspires them, and what makes them who they are, because we all have an ooey gooey on the inside. Today, I have Faust on. How are you today?
I'm fine. How are you, Rusty?
I really honestly can't complain. I absolutely love what I do. I live on the Gulf Coast of Florida, so it's perpetually sunny. The window is actually closed with a curtain, and you can still see how much sun. I have dinosaurs running all over my yard. What's a girl to complain about?
There you go.
So, Faust, who are you? What do you do? And what makes you do what you do?
Well, I'm professionally, I'm a psychologist. I counsel people for a living. Who I am is a person who loves to be around people. I've been doing this for 40 years. I'm the guy that still doesn't go to work. I go into what I love to do every day, and that's to be with people. I like to help them find that part of themselves that really works, that makes them feel good about themselves. And I've spent a lot of time doing it. It's still something I still love after all these years. I still look forward to going into the office. So I'm that guy that likes to help people.
Well, and I as much as I like that statement, that's not actually the real reason why you do what you do. So what caused you to go down this path? What is the excitement, the exploration, the wonder, the trigger that made you say, hey, I want to help people when I grow up?
That is to the point that comes from my search for me, and having done that all these years and knowing that it's possible to do. And the more you do and the farther you go, the better you feel about yourself. So I want to take that to other people. I know it's doable.
And you've written a book about this? Or two?
I have written a book called the Fix Yourself Handbook, which comes right out of my practice. It's something that I put together over 30 years of private practice. And it just outlines a very practical way for people to get to who they are. We look at information. I give them the exact steps they need to take in order to get to where they need to go. It's very much like when you go into counseling.
Well, and I think it's wonderful that you have this guideline. And when you had emailed me about it, I was excited because this is a perfect time to introspectively dig.
Yes.
Do you feel that this is a deep dive or kind of a gentle entry level dive?
It's both. It starts gentle. I start my program with just helping a person to understand where their life is at that particular point. They know if they've gotten to me, something's not working. So that first decision is, you take your life off autopilot, so to speak, and we make that decision to go forward. As we go on, then it gets deep. I'm one of those very practical, let's not leave any stone unturned, unturned kind of people. So we go to whatever they need to go to. They all come in with one or two problems, but by the time we start opening things up, there's that whole force behind them, which is, the end result of many, many years of pain.
Well, and as I travel the world right now, talking to people, it's really interesting how people deal with silence. We're so busy, we're so fast food, we fill, stuff. And now that we're forced to be in silence, it's really phenomenal how many individuals are actually dealing with grief, which is making them angry and irritated and drinking too much and smoking too much and, pills and all of that kind of stuff to still avoid what's causing the grief in the first place.
And that's typically how we deal with life. We tend to operate on what I call the pleasure principle. Let's make it as enjoyable and as comfortable all the time. But as I know, I was just speaking with someone this morning. We were talking about comfort zones, and this woman said, I really have a hard time leaving them. And I said, well, my own definition of a comfort zone, that's fine for a short period of time, but they often become prisons. And then we put all our little games in there that we need to keep the comfort zone, and that becomes the most important thing for us to defend. And we don't realize that there's some real simple solutions, some real simple ways to change some of the things that don't work for us. We don't need to put all that artificial stuff in place.
Now, what state are you located in again? I apologize. By the time this series is done, I'll have 153 people.
I'm in Pennsylvania.
Ah, it's been a Pennsylvania week. I think I have everybody from Pennsylvania this week. So you guys are still in lockdown.
We still are, yes.
And what is the dynamic for doctor and patient right now? Because telemedicine is something that I used to sell back in the days when dinosaurs had the big slates, when telemedicine came out, a long time ago. What is the dynamics now with reaching out and helping your patients at a distance?
Yeah, I'm seeing almost 50 people a week, and I think 7 of them I'm doing this type of thing, a call or a Zoom or something. The rest of them are all coming in, and it's just me in the office. So they come, I staggered the caseload, so they come into an empty waiting room. That waiting room has been sprayed and cleaned between everyone that comes in. They come into my office, again, the same dynamic, and then we're sitting about 10, 12 feet away from each other. So it's still, nothing has changed.
That's good. That's good to hear, because I was wondering on the mental health aspect. I was talking to my daughter's pediatrician the other day, and she said that with children in her practice, there's been an increase in anxiety, there's been an increase in depression, and I was talking to another woman way on the other side of the world in regards to youth and suicide rates just going exponential right now because of the stress and the tension and the unknowing. And I don't know if you actually work with children, but I'm imagining that even in your practice, you would see a little bit more concern and anxiety.
The key to this whole thing, all this mental health stuff we're talking about, is that we had to slow down. And you just said it before. What's the primary way to not think about anything is to go fast and go from point to point and never deal with anything. Now this thing hits and they say to us, you stay in the house, you slow things down, we're back to what they used to do, in the 1920s. And with all the complexity, we need to slow down, but they haven't. And then things came to a screeching halt. All my problems are with me. I don't have anywhere to go. I can't even get in the car and go anywhere, because some states, they'll stop you from driving nowhere. So now everyone's facing the problems. And along with that, we have money issues because people aren't working. We have schools that are closed. Kids are home. Parents are playing dual roles again. And so, suicide, substance abuse, pharmacology use going way up, everything. And, even in my practice, I typically don't have a waiting list. I have a waiting list of about 11 people right now, because that's what's happened in the last 2 weeks, and just no place to put them.
In your opinion, and I'm going to put you on the spot because this is my job, this is what I love to do. What are your top 2 things that you would recommend for somebody who's about to lose their mind, or I think crying is very healthy. I think you're getting rid of history and you're providing yourself joy, because crying can be very comforting. So your history goes and you're in joy, right? That's the way I look at it. But not everybody's like me. So what would you recommend just for coping mechanisms for right now?
First and foremost, don't keep it inside. Again, we had to slow down. We're isolated. What we did is we took the rest of the world away from us, so to speak. A lot of our coping devices were other people, other places, other things. Keep the contact going. You can still call people. You can still see people if you're willing to keep that distance and put a mask on if you have to. That's the first thing. And the second thing is a positive attitude, at least to the point where you say, okay, this is what I'm in. If I do these things and not fight against it, I'm not putting all my energy in a negative place. And that's what people are doing. They're focusing on what they can't do and what they don't have and what they're losing. And that's not the whole picture. If, again, we're in our homes where we have everything we need. The toilet paper's not going to run out. All that, it's there. If we just look at it a little differently, it's not the huge change we think it is. But, again, we're a society that gets what we want, when we want it, the way we want it. And now someone said, stop, you can't. And that's what everyone's focusing on. So,
I'm a history person. I love anthropology, sociology. So that's why I'm really grooving on what I do in this space, because it's learning about people. And they're phenomenally dichotomy, hypocrites, beautiful, delicious, amazing, self-driven, more powerful than they realize creatures. And from that perspective, it's really an awesome experience. And what I observe is thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years of living in caves, living on farms, being completely isolated because we didn't have technology, we didn't have cars, throughout thousands of years. And we've come to this place where we've taken that for granted. We've kind of lost that skill set of self-sufficiency, don't you think?
absolutely. And that really is what causes the negativity. And I agree with what you say, which is what really the core of what I do with people is you've got all of this stuff inside you. It's there, but you've let it lie dormant for so long. And that's what my book is all about. It's about the process way of life, which are all these processes: to love, to trust, to communicate, all those kinds of things, humility, all the things that we can use to really make our world better, we don't use because we're so focused on the outside. If we would just get back inside, we would see that everything is there and we are that much more powerful than we know. And that's what I'm training people to do. Really, I'm not putting anything new into anyone. I'm saying, let's take what you have, let's connect all the dots, let's make you realize how powerful you are, and then you go unleash yourself on the world and on your own life.
Well, and I think that's beautiful. I say often, especially when I'm speaking motivationally, that I can actually have 5 very different people from very different places on the planet give you the same exact sentence, one sentence, but each of them will say the same exact thing. And most of the audience will only resonate with one of them.
Right.
Because you only hear what you want to hear, and you're attracted to a certain perception, and that perception resonates somehow, that information. I think it's interesting at this time because more people are changing their perception. They're changing the priorities. They're kind of going, whoa, I've had 6 weeks of decompressing, rewiring, figuring out new ways of doing things. Now what?
Now you go, that's again, where you take what you have and little by little, step by step, you begin to put it out there. Most people are afraid to put what's in here out there. We don't trust people. We don't trust ourselves. We don't know where to go with things. And I just tell people, the power's all in here. When they come into my office, I mean, we first of all, we have a blast when we do counseling. I can't imagine these counselors who, it's like, when you come into my office, it's going to be, we're going to be lots of energy, lots of laughing. We're going to cry. We're going to go get things that hurt. We're going to turn some negatives into positives. But I just tell them, you've got to learn to have a good time with change and with changing yourself. If you can do that, you really pursue that. It's not a chore anymore. It's not this negative thing I got to turn to a positive. It's this labor of love that I love doing every day. And there's nothing better for me when someone leaves the office and says, that was hard, but I really connect, and I can't wait to see you next week. That's, when you get that, then a person's going to take this and run with it.
And it's a lot of work. I mean, going through trauma, it's a lot of work to get out of that emotionality place. And I love it when they get that spark that, hey, maybe I can at least put my toe into something different that I've always wanted to do. And you have a different kind of way of doing things, but basically all we do is cheer them on. We're the little cheerleaders on the sideline going, yeah, come on, you can do it, right? We're kind
We
of
do that.
that coach person, that little devil or angel, depending on where they need to be. And I think that's what makes humans just amazing, just to watch them grow. It's like, I don't know, did you have kids?
I had four.
Oh God, good for you. But it's, you know, when they get really ornery and mischievous and they think that they're so independent, and they get into everything and then they look at you and laugh, you know, that place. I love that. I'm like, yes, that's what humans are.
That's
That's
what we
it.
are, right? And you know, and we have that when we're kids, and then we get wrapped up in all this other stuff, and we think we lost it, and we didn't. It's just not being used anymore. You know, so again, you know, I tell them everything you have is inside you. All you have to do is learn how to access it, to define it a little bit, and then you can start changing your life, and stop looking at all these plans that are way out there. They're going to, you know, this new stuff and all these new acronyms and all these new things people bring out. It's the old stuff that's inside you that's going to do it. It's all there already. I haven't met anyone who's come into my office and I would say, I don't think there's anything in there. They're loaded with potential,
Well,
but they're
it's just, it's, I'm a huge person, and every single show, I don't know if you've ever watched or listened to my show, I always say, kill your TV, because what you put in your mind, what you put in your mouth, and what you put in your heart, that changes what you put out, right? And
absolutely.
we understand that with food and caffeine and drugs, right? But we don't understand that with the mind, what you put in the mind. And I think it's even more difficult for this time period technologically, because we're always tuned in, we're always plugged in, whether it's the cell phone, the radio, billboards, flashing lights in the city. um, you know, you can't even go to a grocery store without them plugging some sort of advertisement in your head. And that constant busyness, I think people are detoxing, don't you?
Well, yeah, and the word I actually use is withdrawal. What I'm seeing is that, you know, getting in the house, now you're disconnected, and you know, now we're seeing, you know, all the movies and the television. They're actually increasing all that because that's what they have. Uh, I wanted to buy a new microphone for my computer. Well, they're not to be had because everyone in the world is connecting on the inside now. Yeah, there's a withdrawal to this whole thing, and then with that comes all the negative language, and I keep telling people, what you say in your head, the way you talk about yourself and your world, is exactly how you're going to live. If you're going to think angry, you will speak angry, you'll hear that anger, you'll behave with anger. You got to start talking to yourself with positive terminology, and you're not going to find it on TV. It's just not going to be there.
One of my guests a couple of weeks ago is actually in downtown New York. So like the big hot spot that's happening right now. And she gave me the best advice ever. And I think you'll love this. It's write your own mission statement. And so I took it a step further. Once you write your mission statement, read it to yourself in the morning and read it to yourself before you go to bed. This way you're feeding yourself, your mind, your body, your soul, your self-esteem, all of those pieces, something extremely positive, because that's what a mission statement is. And if you were a business owner, you hold on to that mission statement for dear life because that pays your bills.
That's
So
right.
you're owning your own business as a person on the planet. And that's a very important tool, I think. I thought it
and
was fun.
and that's what people don't realize. We're people, but we are our own business. If we have a plan, and that's a huge topic I bring into counseling. What is your plan? You can be spontaneous every now and then, go have a good time, but do you get up every day with a purpose? And it doesn't matter what the purpose is. That's completely up to you. But do you get up with that purpose? At the end of the day, do you review it and say, well, how did I do with that today? You know, it's not a pressure place to be. It's just, let me stay on the track that I'm saying that I want to be on, which is what I'm choosing for myself. But what is the plan? And they hear this from me all the time. I think they say, okay, he's going to ask me what the plan is. You know, they come in prepared, but without a plan, I'm not sure what people do. That's where you're led. That's where you follow the crowd, and that's where autopilot comes in. And now you're not thinking anymore. What's the other big thing I tell people? You've got to start consciously thinking about what you want to do, and not just follow along. This, you know, to trend with someone is irrelevant. you want to define your own purpose, and you then follow it yourself.
Well, and I think it's wonderful if you have self-exploration, you know, if you go and tango dance and then salsa dance and then belly dance, you know, explore the different facets of what makes you curious and excited and set your soul on fire. But it's going out and saying, this sets my soul on fire. This is something I'm interested in. This is something I want to do. And we're very complacent, or were, in the old norm. That's what I call it now, you know, pre-COVID.
Yeah.
And it's kind of exciting to see how people are reinventing themselves now, where that's really all that we have an opportunity to do, is reinvent ourselves.
And you're right. And what I tell people is, the word I use is create. I say, we're not looking to find you. That's just a term that gets, I've never understood it. I always say, how are you going to find yourself? You're going to define some terms. That's great. How about if we work on creating the person you want to be? That we can do.
So where do we find more information about you, and how do we get a hold of your book?
Okay. As far as finding information, there is a website. It is my name, FaustRuggiero.com. You will find everything about the book. It's dedicated to the book. You'll even find chapter outlines so you know what you're dealing with. My book is written for everyone. There are no demographic. I don't like that. If you're going to pick up the book, you should be able to work with it. So you'll see what the whole book and what it's all about. As far as buying it, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all the usual retailers have it.
Excellent. What is your favorite thing to do right now, since we can't really do too much?
You know, honestly, my favorite thing is to be the way I've always been. I'm a very, very engaged, very dynamic person. So it doesn't matter where I am. I'm home. I'm going to fill my day. Yesterday, I finally sat down. It was 9:30 in the evening. I just realized I had a 13-hour day. And I looked and I said, you know, I do need to turn it off a little bit, but I can just keep on going. People look for all these grandiose things to get involved in. You could take the simplest thing, but really put yourself into it. And that's what becomes a wonderful experience. So the answer to the question is, I want to throw myself into everything that I do, have a wonderful time with it, the best I can. And then at the end of the day, I can put my head on the pillow and say, I did okay today.
My favorite thing is going through my gratitudes and my blessings, and forgiving myself if I didn't get, I'm an A-type. So that's something that I've had to work on really hard for years, because that 13-hour day turns into 16 pretty quick.
Oh, yeah.
And so self-care is part of that, breaking it down to 9-10 hours. And I think a lot of that is just self-reflection at the end of the day. You know, okay, I didn't get X, Y, and Z done, but I have to remember my personality type, and sometimes you can't fit everything in there. Mm-hmm. What kinds of steps like that do you offer with your clients for self-realization, and that way they can actually legitimately attain their goals?
We talk about the work that has to be done, but we also talk about having fun. And you have to kind of simplify your life. The work we're doing can get complicated. Go do something that just, go be silly. Go have fun. Go have a good time. I have a 13-hour day, but in the middle of that, I have a kind of workout training center in the basement. So I'm going to be down there for an hour. So that's part of that day. Put some other things that make you feel good. Meditation, prayer, if that's what you like. Have some things, those things that make you feel good about yourself, and then work hard and do the other things you have to do. That's all. It's a balance, and that's really what the whole Fix Yourself Handbook is about: balance, intellectual, physical, emotional, spiritual balance. That's what I'm teaching people. So I'm helping them to work with all the various parts of their lives and get them into a point where they work together.
Are you doing any speaking engagements or anything like that?
I was, but not since this.
Nothing virtual?
Not too much, because I'm promoting the book so much. I'm doing a lot of podcasts and interviews and things like that. And with working full time, there isn't a whole lot of time left. So, and I really don't want to take away from the people that, when you come into my office, you're going to get 100% of me. I don't want to, I think I'm going to leave here and I got to get that done. So I'm preparing for this workshop. So right now they're getting all of me.
Yeah, it's a labor of love to write a book. It's a labor of love to market your book, and it's another labor of love to try to balance all of it and
You
still
got
have self-care because
it.
you get tired,
You
you
do.
know? So unfortunately, we are wrapping up. It is that time. I want you to be able to give out your information and any last bit of tidbit wisdom that you think we could use right now.
Uh, the best thing I can tell everyone is slow down, be able to work with a slower pace. If you learn anything from this, slow down, be very honest with yourself. Try not to put all the little defenses and all those things, the entitlement that we used to have. Try to push that aside, but just slow down, simplify your life, and begin to at this point, since you are slowed down, begin to work on that plan. Look at what you're, it's almost like when people go to prison, they say, okay, I'm going to redo my life and I want to have a plan when I get out. Well, this is all going to open up. What's your plan? Are you going to go back to your norm, or maybe can you go back with a few more tools?
Exactly right. And what's your website again?
Website is www.faustruggiero.com.
And I'm very grateful for your time. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your information and words of wisdom. I hope that you're able to really enlighten people and help them get to the next step, because that's all it is. It's one foot in front of the other. That's the way we're built. Our feet aren't built backwards, so we're not going that way.
That's
We have
right.
to go forward one step at a time. And so I'm grateful for you. Thank you for all your work.
Thanks for inviting me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're watching Living and Thriving with Rusty. And hey, he says everything that I've already said 1,000 times, literally 1,000 times. Okay, so you heard it from somebody else. Find your passion, get creative. There's no reason why you can't duct tape your kids to the wall. It's fun. I did it with my Nerf gun, and my 14-year-old still hasn't forgiven me completely. Routines. Did he mention routines? How many times do I say get out of bed? Come on, guys. I know. You had your vacation for a few weeks. Change the shirt, brush the teeth, deodorant. Get into a routine. Motivate yourself. This is how you're going to find your new version of you, the 2.2 or 3.2 or wherever you are in life. But you know what I'm saying. What are you doing to be of service? That's a huge one for me. I'm not going to let this one go. It's so important to be involved with your community, help other people out, write letters, knock on your neighbor's door 6 feet away with a broomstick, say, hey, honey, do you need any coffee or anything? These things can happen without you getting cooties. It can happen. But the good thing is, it feels good, and they feel good, and they feel cared for. And well, hey, you're caring for them and yourself at the same time. So that's a win-win. It's almost selfish, just saying. And write that mission statement. I cannot tell you how beautiful that was. That mission statement is so important. What are you putting into your head when you wake up in the morning, and what are you putting into your head before you fall asleep? All positive, all good. We'll get through this. We're tough. We are very tough people. And as Dr. Faye said the other day, you should be experiencing life from the inside out, not from the outside in. Know that I love you, know that you're beautiful, and until next time.